One of the most confusing things in YNAB is when you pay your credit card in full every month, but YNAB still makes it look like something is wrong because you know that in your real life you are not missing payments. You're not getting charged interest. You're not thinking of yourself as a person who has credit card debt. You're just using the card for normal spending, paying the statement when it's due, getting points, and living your best responsible life. And then YNAB shows up and says, cool, but are those dollars actually available? Rude. Helpful, yes, as we'll see in a second, but rude. So let's talk about credit cards in YNAB, specifically about what is known as credit card float. This is especially for people who pay their credit cards in full every month and still feel confused about it inside of YNAB. Here's the basic idea. You may be using this month's income to pay for last month's credit card spending. And what most people don't realize is that that can be true even if the statement balance gets paid in full on time every month. Your payment and credit card usage behavior might be totally responsible, while the timing underneath it is still stressing you out. And this distinction really matters because YNAB does not only care whether the bill gets paid someday. YNAB is asking a more immediate question, and here it is. If you had to pay the credit card today and also fund the rest of your life with the cash that you have today, could you do both? And answering that question for themselves is where a lot of people discover that they are indeed on credit card float. Another way to think about this is that you're living a month behind instead of a month ahead. Tell me if this sounds familiar to you. They look at their checking account and they think, I have money. Then they look at their savings account and they think, I have an emergency fund. And then they look at their credit card and think, I pay this off every month. But when YNAB asks every dollar to take one job at a time, it becomes clear that some of those dollars may already be spoken for by the credit card. Now remember, this is not some kind of moral indictment. Credit card companies and banks work really hard to get you into this position because it's good for them. It makes you dependent on using their credit card for making purchases. The good news is, if you're used to paying your credit card statement balance every month, this is not an income problem. This is a timing problem. And fixing a timing problem, that's something you can totally learn how to do. If credit cards and the credit card float is exactly where you get stuck with YNAB, especially if the credit card payment category makes you feel like you're doing something wrong, this is something I help people untangle all the time. It's probably the number one reason people reach out to me. We can look at your actual credit cards, your actual categories in YNAB, and we can make sure that your YNAB plan finally makes sense, especially as it relates to your credit cards. If you want very calm, I know I get excited, okay, but if you want calm, compassionate help with credit cards in YNAB, click the link in the description to work with me. Okay, now let's talk about how to shift our thinking on this. If you're already paying your credit card statement balance in full every month on time, that's great. Keep doing that. But keep in mind that whether or not you can pay off your statement balance when it's due is only half of the question. The full picture and the question that YNAB is going to force you to answer is, are the dollars that I've set aside to make that credit card payment already assigned and available to pay off the credit card? You see, in YNAB, when you spend on a credit card from a funded category, YNAB moves the money from the spending category to the credit card payment category. So if you had $30 in groceries and you spend $30 on the card, the grocery money does not disappear. It doesn't leave your checking account yet. What changes is the job that those dollars have. The job of those $30 is no longer to buy groceries. The job of those $30 is now to pay off the credit card. And I gotta tell you, this part is so beautiful when it finally clicks for you. This is what converted me personally to YNAB over 12 years ago. What can be the confusing part is the starting balance. When you begin using YNAB, and you already have a credit card balance, YNAB doesn't know which past groceries, gas, Costco runs, vet bills, and software subscriptions created the balance that you have when you start using YNAB. That spending already happened, and YNAB doesn't have a record of it. So if you want to be able to pay that existing balance with cash you have now, you have to assign money directly to the credit card payment category. And that can feel weird because you are used to thinking, I already planned for groceries. But if those grocery purchases happened before you started using YNAB or before the category was funded, the payment for the credit card still needs dollars. And this is where a lot of people freak out and think that they're double counting. The same dollars in your checking, it feels like an emergency fund. It also feels like next month's money, and it might feel like credit card payment money all at the same time. But YNAB, as it always does, is going to gently but firmly remind you that each dollar can only actually have one job. Again, it's really helpful. It's rude, okay, but it's really helpful. So what do you do if you realize that you are on credit card float? First, just take a deep breath. I've watched people realize this in real time many, many times, and I gotta tell you, it is never a pleasant realization. It means that you've committed yourself to spend money that you haven't earned yet. And that just feels kind of bad when you finally realize that's what's been going on. But the good news is you do not have to solve the whole thing in one dramatic money cleanse. Start by looking at the credit card payment category in your plan and compare it to the current card balance. If they match, that is, if your credit card balance is negative $2,000, and the payment category has $2,000 available, you're in a very different position than if the card balance is negative $2,000 and the payment category has $400 available. The gap between the balance on your credit card and the available dollars in the credit card payment category, that's the part you want to pay attention to. Then ask the second question. After accounting for the card balance, what does the rest of your cash need to do before you get paid again? I find it helpful to start with the basics or just open up your calendar and see what's coming up this week. Maybe rent or mortgage is due. Maybe you need to go grocery shopping or pay the utilities. It could be that you have some kid activities that you need to fund. Whatever has to happen between now and your next paycheck, see if you have enough cash left after assigning the full credit card balance to cover those expenses. Now, for some people, this is the part that makes getting off of the credit card float feel slow because you're trying to fund two things at once. You're funding your current life, and you are gradually catching up on the past spending. Please remember, this is not a failure. This is a huge success. If you're even aware that you're on the credit card float, then you are more aware than 99% of people who have ever used a credit card. And you're well on your way to enjoying your rewards points without all this nonsense and stress weighing you down. A simple plan might be keep using the card only for categories that are already fully funded, and then assign an extra amount to the credit card payment category every time new money arrives. And it doesn't have to be very much. It depends on how much you have. Maybe it's $50, maybe it's $200. And maybe for a temporary season, it's whatever's left over after your essential expenses are covered. To be honest with you, the amount matters much less than the direction, because if you're headed in the right direction, you're going to make progress on this, and within a few months, you'll probably be off the credit card float. The shift here is you are slowly moving from the mindset that future income will cover the purchases that I'm making right now to cash that I already have sitting in the bank right now is covering this purchase that I'm making, even though I'm making this purchase on a credit card. And as that starts to happen, YNAB and all of its little yellow and red notifications start to feel way less accusatory and way more empowering. You are going to learn to love the credit card payment category because it's going to stop being a confusing red flag, and it will become a beautiful holding place for dollars that already have a job. And the emotional payoff here is huge. Your credit card stops being an ambiguous fog machine clouding up all your personal finances. You can still use it, you can still get points, and you can still keep paying it in full. But now you know whether the money for that payment is actually ready, or whether you are depending on your next paycheck to make the timing work. And that clarity is the point. You gotta stop feeling ashamed every time you see your credit card balance and realize that you couldn't pay it off. The goal is to feel awesome when you see your card balance and an equivalent amount of money sitting in your bank account ready to pay it off. Goal is to get honest enough about the timing of your spending that your plan in YNAB can actually help you make great decisions and feel great about your money. So, if YNAB is making your paid-in-full credit card feel weird, try asking yourself, could I pay the card in full today? And could I still fund the rest of my life before I get paid again with the cash I have on hand? If the answer is no, now you have a real next step. And if your next question is how to make YNAB feel simpler overall, especially if your categories have gotten really out of hand, watch this video next.